Welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into something that has been building for a long time. The headlines, the interviews, the documentaries, the memoirs, the endless online debates, and one big question that refuses to go away. Why are so many people still blaming the entire royal family for one man's personal decisions? This is a royal rant, and it's time to say it clearly. At some point, responsibility belongs to the individual. For years now, every career move, every interview, every public complaint, every family fallout has somehow circled back to the same narrative, that the other royals are at fault, that they forced this, that they created that they push him out, that they didn't protect him enough, that they didn't apologize, that they didn't explain. But here's the uncomfortable truth. He is not a child. He is not trapped. He is not voiceless. He is a grown man in his late 30s, a father, a husband, a multimillionaire, living in a mansion in California, signing media deals worth 10 soft millions. And yet somehow, every choice he makes is framed as someone else's responsibility. Let's break this down calmly. When he chose to step back from royal duties, that was a choice. When he signed massive contracts with global streaming platforms, that was a choice. When he agreed to reveal private family conversations on television, that was a choice. When he wrote a memoir detailing personal grievances, that was a choice. When he continues to publicly criticize his family years later, that is still a choice. You can argue about whether those choices were wise. You can debate whether they were justified. But what you can't do is pretend they weren't his decisions. And this is where the royal rant truly begins. Some supporters insist that everything traces back to his childhood, to the trauma, to the loss of his mother. And yes, losing a parent in such a public and tragic way is unimaginable. No one can minimize that pain. It shaped him. It marked him. It influenced him. But trauma explains behavior. It does not excuse every action forever. At some point in adulthood, accountability must enter the room. Plenty of people experience deep trauma and still make conscious decisions about how they treat others, how they speak publicly, and how they manage private family conflicts. Pain is real. Hurt is real. But so is agency. And let's talk about the other royals for a moment. They cannot publicly defend themselves. They operate under an entirely different system. Never complain, never explain isn't just a catchy phrase. It's the foundation of the institution. Whether you agree with it or not, that is the rule they live by. So when accusations are made on global platforms and private family conversations are broadcast to millions, they don't respond. They can't respond. Silence then gets interpreted as guilt. But sometimes silence is simply policy, and that creates an imbalance. One side speaks freely in interviews, podcasts, and books. The other side remains publicly quiet. The public hears one narrative again and again, while the other side absorbs it without reply. Then people ask, why don't the royals fix this? Fix what exactly? They didn't write the memoir. They didn't produce the series. They didn't schedule the interviews. They didn't approve the scripts. Those were independent business decisions. It's also important to remember that stepping back from royal life was framed as a desire for privacy, for peace, for a life away from media intrusion. And yet, since that exit, the media presence has increased dramatically. Documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, public speeches revisiting the same grievances. You cannot simultaneously claim to want privacy and then monetize intimate family details. That contradiction is part of why so many people are frustrated. Now, this isn't about blind loyalty to the monarchy. It's not about saying the institution is flawless. It's not about pretending mistakes were never made. Every family has conflict. Every institution has flaws. The royal family is no exception. There may have been cold moments, miscommunications, misjudgments, even failures of support. But those issues do not erase personal responsibility. Another narrative we often hear is that he had no choice, that he was trapped, that leaving was the only option. Let's examine that carefully. He was sixth in line to the throne at the time of departure. He was not the heir. He had significantly more freedom than the direct successor. He had options within the institution. There were precedents for crafting a more flexible role. The final decision to step away completely, was negotiated. It involved complex discussions. It involved trade-offs, titles, security, financial independence. And again, it was a decision. No one forced him onto a plane. No one forced him to relocate continents. No one forced him to build a media empire centered around royal revelations. That was strategy. That was planning. That was execution. And here's the heart of this rant: blaming the other royals for everything removes the very agency he claims to want. If he wants to be seen as independent, strong, self-directed, then own the outcomes of independence. You can't demand autonomy and then blame your former environment for every consequence of exercising it. If the streaming deal underperforms, that's business risk. If public opinion shifts, that's media reality. If family relationships deteriorate after repeated public disclosures, that's relational cause and effect. That isn't cruelty. It's adulthood. There's also the issue of perpetual grievance. At some point, audiences get fatigued, not because they lack empathy, but because the story stops evolving. It becomes cyclical. The same themes, the same criticisms, the same villains. And the public starts to wonder, is healing happening or is resentment being preserved? Growth requires forward motion. It requires saying, that was painful, that was wrong, but this is who I am now, and this is what I'm building. Not, let me revisit that moment again for a new platform. Another important point: the other royals have continued their duties. They show up, they attend events, they support charities, they maintain schedules that span continents. They do it under scrutiny, criticism, and sometimes open hostility. And yet they rarely publicly retaliate. Is that perfect? No. Is it strategic? Absolutely. Is it disciplined? Without question. Meanwhile, public criticism flows one way. And still, the narrative persists that the silent side is the aggressor. At some point, we have to ask, are we holding everyone to the same standard? If a working royal aired private family arguments in a tell-all interview, the backlash would be immense. If a future king publicly criticized his brother in detail, the outrage would be explosive. But when the criticism flows outward from California, it's often framed as bravery. Why is accountability selective? Another uncomfortable truth: fame outside the monarchy is not automatically easier. Hollywood is ruthless. Streaming numbers matter. Public perception matters. Brand partnerships matter. There is no guaranteed applause. So when projects receive mixed reactions or criticism, that isn't palace sabotage. That's market reality. And markets don't care about royal titles. They care about content relevance and audience engagement. Here's the deeper issue. It's easier to blame a powerful institution than to admit miscalculations. It's easier to say they forced us out than say we overestimated the public appetite. It's easier to frame every obstacle as persecution rather than acknowledge strategy errors. But leadership, even personal leadership, requires self-reflection. If you want to build a new legacy, you cannot remain emotionally anchored to the old one. And let's address something many people avoid saying out loud. Family conflict is rarely one-sided. There are always multiple perspectives, multiple hurts, multiple misunderstandings. The public has heard one detailed version. We have not heard the others. That doesn't mean the others are innocent. It means we don't know. So why are we so quick to assign total blame to one side? Royal life is restrictive. It demands sacrifice. It limits freedom. That's true. But millions of people would trade places in a heartbeat for the privilege, the platform, and the security that role provides. To step away is valid. To criticize the structure is valid. To pursue independence is valid. But to continually vilify those who remain inside the structure while benefiting from the global recognition it gave you creates tension. You can leave the institution, but you can't erase its role in building your brand. You can reject the hierarchy, but you can't deny that your global visibility came from it. So perhaps the real growth moment would look like this. Yes, mistakes were made. Yes, there was pain. Yes, the system is flawed. But I made choices too. I chose to speak. I chose to write. I chose to sign. I chose to leave. That level of ownership changes everything. Because once you claim your decisions, you also reclaim your power. And maybe, just maybe, that would calm the entire storm. At the end of the day, this isn't about choosing sides. It's about consistency. If we want autonomy, we must accept accountability. If we want freedom, we must own consequences. If we want healing, we must stop relitigating the past for profit. The royal family will continue. The institution is bigger than any individual, and so is adulthood. Stop blaming the other royals for one man's choices. He is capable, he is intelligent, he is independent, and that means the decisions, good or bad, belong to him. Thanks for watching today's Royal Rant. If you agree, disagree, or have your own take, drop in the comments below. Let's keep it respectful and thoughtful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next deep dive. And I'll see you in the next one.
Hey everybody, welcome back. So this video was going to be about Prince William over in Saudi, but I'm going to do that for my next video because at the moment I feel like I need to rant. I've been fighting this bug for the past couple of weeks and I think my mood has definitely been affected. And I just really want to get this off of my chest. It's not a subject I like talking about. Of course, I like to be cheerful in my videos, but I'm honestly feeling so disheartened at the moment with the amount of attacks that are going on directed at the royal family, the Prince and Princess of Wales, even Prince Edward, you know, the King and Queen Camilla. Everybody is getting it because of Andrew. And I'm so tired and frustrated with it. I figure if I get this out of the way in a video, have a good old moan and a rant, ask for what you guys think as well. And then tomorrow I can be more refreshed and we can talk about Prince William's and Epstein scandal. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Prince William even got challenged while he was out there. And guess what? It was a British reporter that had travelled out there to cover Prince William's tour. I mean, he's literally gone to report on Prince William in Saudi and he's still throwing those questions, trying to knock Prince William off guard. In fact, out in Saudi Arabia, it was Prince William that they were talking about that took the front pages. It was actually an extremely successful tour. It was actually our UK media, our so-called royal reporters, who spent their time going from story to story to story, rinse and repeat, to do with Andrew, to do with these other stories that are circulating, having different guests on. So if Prince William's tour wasn't reported on in the UK, it's because of these people choosing not to talk about the good things that Prince William and the other royals are doing, but choosing to bring up this sordid, seedy mess. I am honestly at the end of my tether reading all of these stories attacking the royal family because of Andrew. He is responsible for his own actions, and to imply that somehow there's a huge establishment cover-up going on is honestly beyond me. Do I think that he has used his position in power to his own advantage? Yes. Absolutely. Do I think he's had an easy ride? Yes, without a doubt. Do I think that Andrew should be under a police investigation? Yes, for several different things. But as it stands, as of today's date, Andrew is not under a police investigation. This is not me absolving him of any of these allegations. There are some of them that I think that he is, of course, guilty of. But until we have an actual trial or police investigation or charges brought against him, I do not understand what people expect the royal family to actually do. A new story that has come out with regards to trying to smear the king in this whole sordid mess is because the king gave money to go towards the large payment, the 12 million, I believe, that went to Andrew's accuser, Virginia Giuffre. Now, I'll admit here, if Andrew was innocent, and he hadn't done anything with said young lady who was young at the time, then why would he have agreed to pay such a large sum of money? Surely that means that Andrew is well aware that he probably did, in fact, engage in sexual relations with this young woman, because why would you agree to pay that sort of money? Now, as it turns out, according to this story, King Charles gave 1.3 million of his own money. 3 million came from Prince Philip's estate, and the rest came from the Queen's personal coffers to pay the large sum. The only reason why they got involved is because Andrew simply has no money because of the life that he and his ex-wife have lived. They have blown their fortunes. They have spent 10 times over than what they had. That's why they are in so much debt. And this is why they took every payment that they could get. And they've ended up in quite a dangerous situation with regards to national security, with regards to selling secrets to other people, Chinese spies. I mean, the list is endless. And that's away from the whole Epstein stuff. Now, as for this constant effort that is being pushed at the moment by various media outlets, the royals must have known what Andrew was up to. Why? They run their houses, their royal households, like franchises belonging to the same company, right? You've got the Queen, well, now the King and Queen Camilla up the top, but each household has its own staff, their own security, their own diary management. The royals don't all sleep under the same palace roof. They're not like the Waltons. They just shout goodnight to each other every evening. They live very independently of each other. How hard would it have been for Andrew to lie where he was going? How is it that unbelievable? He's lied to so many people that they think that he didn't lie to his family. It's been reported that Andrew was told he needed to end his friendships with certain nefarious people, not just Epstein, but Chinese spies. But Andrew still continued those friendships. But as we know, he lied and he told people, even Fergie, she did a public statement that she had cut Epstein off. And as it turns out, with these recent sets of emails that have been released, they lied. So if they are lying to everybody, why is it all of a sudden that people think that they were telling the truth to their families? I don't believe that they were. The staff must have seen something. Well, the staff work in their own households. Andrew is notoriously known for being the original royal bully before Meghan Markle walked in there making her demands. Andrew has been known to move staff on because he doesn't like their tie, because he doesn't like their face, because they didn't give him the right amount of gratification on the day. He was in a bad mood. He was just upset that someone didn't put his teddy bears in the right order. So if you work for someone, you need your job. I mean, being a staff member in a royal household, and he says, I want you to tell people that I have gone to this person's house or I've gone to this country and I'm doing this, but you know otherwise? What are you going to do? Now, this doesn't mean that anybody knew what he was truly up to. Once Andrew gets on the plane and gets in the car and gets out the other side, you don't know who these people are mingling with. So why do people somehow think that the king was complicit, that Queen Elizabeth knew exactly what Andrew was up to, that Catherine and William, this is the one that really, really pisses me off lately. When you think that Andrew was in his 40s and Prince William and Catherine were teenagers. Prince William was still in his final year, I believe, at St. Andrews when he made friends, when obviously Andrew made friends with Epstein. When Andrew was off swanning around with Lord knows how many other nefarious people, Catherine and William were dating. Prince William was in the RAF. Prince William was saving lives as an air ambulance pilot. They got married. Bearing in mind that they didn't want Fergie and Andrew at the wedding. Fergie obviously didn't come. I'd imagine that was at Prince Philip's insistence. But I don't think that they probably wanted Andrew there. It has been reported over the years that Andrew was incredibly snobby towards the Middletons, towards Catherine. William has never forgiven him for it. So you think that what, he was just hanging around with his eldest nephew, swapping secrets? Of course he wasn't. Catherine and William were leading their own life away from Andrew. And as I said, Prince Charles, he was the Prince of Wales. He was doing Prince of Wales stuff. Andrew had his own household. I think that he lied to his family. I do believe that Andrew has been telling lies pretty much for most of his adult life. He has continued to choose to do what he wanted to do, and this is why he's ended up in this big old sorry mess. Now, bringing this back to Catherine and William, and the other thing that really irritated me in the last few days is Catherine and William's statement. People were quick to jump on it, how it fell short. It wasn't enough, it wasn't doing enough, it wasn't saying enough. One of the Daily Mail witches got straight on her broomstick. Andrew's horrible stench is engulfing William and Kate. No, it's not. You are the ones that are bringing William and Catherine into this. Chris Shipp, always been Team Sussex, that one, even Team Sussex squad. He made a cutting comment after the King's spokesperson posted a statement. This is a more fulsome statement from Buckingham Palace than the words we got earlier from Prince William and Kate. Always Kate, that one, never Catherine or the Princess of Wales. Of course, the matters affect a time when Andrew was working for the late Queen and Buckingham Palace, but it shows that sometimes the no-response approach does not work. That is totally bitchy in his response. He knows this was not an official statement from the Prince and Princess of Wales. They can't give a statement until the King sets the precedent, and he is the one that gives a statement. What their so-called statement was a response, because at the time the reporters were heckling all of the royals. And someone has asked, what are Catherine's and William's thoughts on this current issue with Andrew and Epstein? So without treading on the King's toes or making it look like that they were actually speaking out of turn before the King and Queen Camilla had said something, it was a blanket response to be given to the media. The spokesperson said that I can confirm the Prince and Princess have been deeply concerned by the continuing revelations. Their thoughts remain focused on the victims. They were hardly breaking a silence. They just acknowledged what's going on. They've expressed their deep concerns, but their thoughts are for the victims in all of this. How is what they've said wishy-washy or some sort of huge mistake? Now, the King's statement is a bit more official, as you would expect from the head of the monarchy. His spokesperson said the King has made clear in words and through unprecedented actions his profound concern at allegations which continue to come to light in respect of Mr. Mountbatten Windsor's conduct. Whilst the specific claims in questions are for Mr. Mountbatten Windsor to address, if we are approached by Thames Valley Police, we stand ready to support them as you would expect. And was previously stated, Their Majesty's thoughts and sympathies have been and remain with the victims of any and all forms of abuse. Now, the fact is here, he has said openly in this statement, if the police want to interview Andrew or want to interview us, you have our full support. This was the King publicly putting out there, if the police want to come investigate, please come and do so. He has done that publicly. Now, of course, this isn't the first statement that the King has done either. He did an official statement in October last year, where it was to do with the removal of Andrew's titles. People saying that the King was too late in issuing a statement. He issued it last year. To this date, do you know that the King is the only man in power that has actually acted and punished somebody involved in the whole Epstein circle, right? I mean, we've got a woman behind bars, haven't we? All of these people, all of those names that are out there, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is the only one that's had any sort of punishment. And whilst people feel it's not enough, he should be in prison, he should be sitting in a prison cell, for the rest of his life, whatever, I do understand that. But for Andrew, a man that has lived his life on his arrogance and his princely title, he has been publicly tarred and feathered. Short, as I said, I know you don't need the image, of being stripped naked and walked down the street like in Game of Thrones as everybody screams, shame, 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 and he's thrown with lots of fruit and veg and much, much worse. I fail to see what else the royal family can do. Now, some people call for him to be removed from the line of succession, but really, what does that actually do? Andrew, there's no way he'd make it to the throne any more than what Harry and Meghan would make it to the throne. Everybody would sooner become a republic. But it's the fact that the royals are damned if they do, damned if they don't. Catherine and William didn't say anything. They said something. It's not enough. The king gives a statement. It's not enough. He gave a statement last year when he was busy stripping his brother of his titles, his princely titles, his home. The last person that got stripped of being a prince was someone that fought for the Germans in World War I. You know, historically, this is the ultimate public tar and feathering. And as I've said, as much as people don't like me saying this, tough. He has not been arrested and he has not been charged with a crime. Again, I will say, I am not saying he's innocent here, but until something more happens to Andrew, which has to go through the court of law, I don't know what else they expect the royals to do to him. But as for these so-called royal reporters, and again, this is not all of them, some of them, you know, are great. They're actually reporting, I don't know, on charities, organisations and the good things that the royals do. But the ones complaining, talking about Prince William's Saudi Arabia tour was overshadowed because of Andrew and Epstein. Well, whose fault is that? It's because you won't stop going on and on and on about it. And I think what annoys me the most is I see so much reporting from mainstream media and they're saying that the royals are now more unpopular than ever before. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. It's the stories that they like to peddle, but all you've got to do is look at other people that report live from there. You see the video footage, and I've got a clip here to end the video on. My rant is over with. I feel like I've cleansed myself. I need some sage or something. But you can see that members of the public have had enough, and this person decides to heckle the king, and people are just having none of it, really. And there is a breakout star in this video. Watch the little girl on her dad's shoulders, because I just thought the way that she looks at this person just summed up my attitude completely.
Charles! How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you been protecting Andrew from prosecution?
On that note, guys, I'm sorry. I just feel like I needed to get this off my chest because it's been really, really wearing me down. But if you join me for my next video, there will be no more talks of this person and lots of conversations to do with everything that the real royals have been up to. So take care for now, guys, and I will see you soon. Bye.